Yo, what's going on? What's up, podcasters?
And there's my mic. Okay, now it's working. I did not see that until now, but we should now be audible. Guys in the chat, let me know if you can hear everything, if everything sounds okay, if there's any looping or background weirdness or anything like that. Let me know. I think it should be fine, but just in case, tell me.
This is going so well already.
Yeah, it's going really well. So, yes, this is the Andres Restart podcast. This is your weekly restart. We do it every Monday night. And this time we are talking about Tears of the Kingdom and how it compares to Breath of the Wild. We'll also be talking about Pikmin 4. The demo's been out for a little bit. The game's coming out this Friday. We've been playing the demo. A lot of us have been enjoying it. I'm excited. I know some of you are excited, so we'll be talking about that. And, well, we got some Pokemon rumors. And Switch 2 rumors, too. So there will be a lot to discuss today. But before I go any further, let me introduce... Well, Navi, Sarah, how would you prefer to be called on the stream? Navi, Sarah? I know both are technically public, but...
Sarah's good, but, I guess on social media I do go by Navi or whatever. Sarah's fine, though, preferably.
Okay. Sarah. Sarah, also known as Navi. She does different things on the internet. A few of her pages are linked in the description below. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. No Wi-Fi, but we're making it work.
You're in the Stone Age.
Yep, I am.
Stones are fun. But we can still, thankfully, talk, and it's going to be a good time. A lot of you guys already know about Brandon, my friend and co-host. He's here as well. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. Just busy as well. Probably not quite as busy as you have been lately, but
I don't know.
Very busy.
I assume everyone's busy. We're all busy in our own way. So, yeah. But at least we have a couple hours to talk about Nintendo tonight. So let me check in with the chat here. Let me make sure everything is okay. Having Hope, hello there. BRX Orthotic, what happened to the awesome music? Should be there.
I could hear it on the stream playing back earlier.
Yeah,
It's still there.
Still there.
I literally just unmuted the stream to hear it.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay.
Why are you guys scaring us like that?
I don't know. Maybe I turned it off for a brief moment while I was trying to figure out why my voice is not there. But yeah, it looks like we're good to go. Guys, yes, please let me know if everything looks and sounds okay. If there's anything that does need to be adjusted, let me know now. But let's just start with a little bit of an appetizer. This wasn't necessarily like a planned topic, but I figured we would probably get to it at some point. So, Switch 2. Oh wait, hold on. Don't unsubscribe yet. Wait. This is
Everybody
real
leaves.
news. I promise it's real news. So there's been this ongoing legal battle that's been going on between Microsoft and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. And basically, because Microsoft has been attempting to buy and merge with Activision, they would gain access to a whole bunch of their IP, and Sony has been like, well, hold on. We don't think that's fair. So there's been this ongoing legal battle, but ultimately it has concluded, it looks like, and what this means is that, the deal's going through, and this also means that Nintendo, who signed a contract with Microsoft for the next 10 years, will be getting Call of Duty and other Activision games. But the Switch 2 news is because a lot of this was all public, and there's a lot of information kind of coming from this. A lot of different little things, a lot of tidbits. And part of it includes that there is an expectation. There's literally, if you look through the legal documentation, I think like on 92 or something, there is a literal quote. I'm paraphrasing because I'm doing this based off my memory, but it's something to the effect of they are expecting Nintendo's successor to the Switch as early as 2024. And that is the quote. It doesn't mean it has to come out in 2024, but it does seem that there's an indication that that's when is expected by most. They are prepared for it to come out in 2024. Like Microsoft and Sony, like they assess the market because they have to compete with the market, and their expectation is that it could be out as early as then. So that they're gearing up for this. So in other words, this conversation about Switch 2 coming out next year, if it's coming up in actual legal court cases and companies are operating under the expectation that it could happen next year, it could happen next year. So that is kind of the news on that. And it's kind of a big deal, even if you don't care about the Switch 2 thing. Activision games coming to Switch, that's something. I like Call of Duty, so, I might play it on my Switch. Yeah, having it portable is actually kind of nice. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to play everywhere if you don't have a good internet connection, if you don't have your Wi-Fi working. But
Play campaign.
But yeah, you still have access to it if you have a hotspot, right? Or maybe you're in your house, you can just kind of like, move around the house more comfortably as opposed to just one location. So I think it is a big deal that stuff like that can come to Switch. But what do you guys make of this? Jump in all at once.
I didn't want to talk over him. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a good thing that we're getting more diversity to the Switch. I think it could bring like different players to the console. But personally, I don't play a lot of Call of Duty. But hey, if it's for you, that's fun.
Yeah, I haven't played a bunch of Call of Duty either, or that many Activision games. I played like the 2019 like Modern Warfare reboot, I think it was. That one was good. But I've literally never even purchased my own copy of Call of Duty. I just play other people's. So yeah,
I played the mobile version a lot when it came out, but I don't think that counts.
I've played some of that. Yeah, probably put like 20 hours in the mobile version.
I feel like
you almost exclusively play against bots because I cannot be that good at mobile Call of Duty.
I've played Fortnite
I'll be going
on
getting
mobile.
like 40 kills, 3 deaths every round.
Yeah, I don't like playing bots. It just feels too easy. So then what happens is that when I actually do win, I'm like, no, it was a bot. No, good or bad, it was a bot. Yeah, that's just how it is. But
yeah. But I mean, I would like to have a Switch version of Call of Duty because a Switch 2 version is what I would really want, because I don't think I would buy a normal Switch version of Call of Duty. I don't see how they would get that to run at like a great frame rate while actually being like coherent. Because you need a certain level of like visual coherency to actually tell what's going on in a fast-paced shooter. And especially if they can't get to 60 FPS, I would never want to play that version of the game. But a Switch 2 version, I think they could definitely get like a really good version on that system. So, I don't need Call of Duty to look, 4K ray traced. As long as it looks good enough, I can tell what's going on. I got at least 60 FPS. I think a good portable version would be nice.
So, do you guys feel that it is implied from all this, from what you guys have seen, that Switch 2 is coming out next year? Or are you still on the fence about it coming out next year?
I'm still on the fence. I mean, I could see it happening, but I don't know. I don't know. I thought we were getting Zelda ports this year too, and we didn't. So I clearly don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's hard because there's a lot of things that you could make that make sense, and they just didn't do it, like launching it with Zelda. It's very weird to me that they didn't just delay Zelda like to the end of this year and launch the Switch 2 this year. I don't understand. Well, obviously there's some reason they didn't do that, but that is beyond my knowledge, because all the logic that makes sense to me. But I still think it's probably going to come out next year. Just the only thing that has me like, I think they need to come up with a system is just how quickly the sales of the current Switch are dropping year on year. You don't want to just let it go completely down to like basically nothing. You want to have, the hype transfer over to the next generation. I think next year is a good year for that. But, honestly, if the sales were still good, I'd be like, they could keep it going. But we are finally at that point where I'm like, okay, maybe the sales numbers make sense where they want to launch it. Yeah. That's kind of the only solid evidence I feel like I actually have. There's other stuff that definitely points towards it, tons of stuff pointing towards it, but nothing that I feel is like concrete. As much as like the sales numbers feels like something they need to address.
I think that's maybe. I mean, there's all sorts of things that could arguably indicate something is happening, but there's always some level of doubt. Yeah, like
Right.
no one ever really knows. I think even people who know don't actually know. Like I'll just tell you that, people that I have been friends with who have some level of knowledge of what happens within the Nintendo marketing space, there's change that is constant. So
yes.
I'm not, there may be some things that they're like, this needs to happen by this point, right? But they're, like, I wouldn't be surprised, like, if maybe there are several games that they think are coming out in a year, and then 3 months beforehand they flip it. Like that may happen all the time. And people who have inside information, who have good track records of having inside information, they still don't know everything. They still don't get everything right. So I think it's anyone's guess at the end of the day, right? We talk about it because it's fun. Maybe it gives us some inkling of what may happen. Some of us may be more right than others, but it depends on the day. It depends on the month. That's just how it is. But I think you bring up a good point, Brandon, that the sales, I think, is probably really like the best indicator, because Nintendo is forecasting 15 million for this fiscal year, which is going to be but when we hit that once we hit that end of this fiscal year, that's going to be the third drop in a row. So when you look at the history of sales from Nintendo systems, when a system is dropping that consistently year by year, they would have already announced the system. Like, this is actually, from that perspective, we've already waited a really long time. From that perspective, it is all relative, because 15 million is still a lot for a year, but considering how much they've been selling every year, So yeah, I do think though that Switch 2 is happening next year. You don't know for sure, but I think it's happening. I think there's a lot of smoke, and I think the way Nintendo's positioning their games for this year is kind of like an alley-oop for the lineup to next year. Yeah, so I think it's happening, but we'll see what happens. As long as we're getting games, I really don't care.
True.
Yeah, and that's the funny part, right? Like, you think back to like the Wii U days, or like the GameCube days, or even the Wii days, as like as a core Nintendo gamer, there were like 6 months to a year of time where you wouldn't have anything you would care about, and you're like, all right, well,
you'd have that one flagship game that came along, and you're like, ho ho, I know what I'm playing for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Now it's like, oh damn it, the Direct didn't give me my greatest game of all time. I guess I'll just play Pikmin 2 instead. Like,
Yeah.
So it's fine. But let's focus on the other topics. I'm gonna get to the chat here, and then we'll transition over, unless there's anything else you guys want to kind of speak on with this little mini starter topic.
Not really.
I don't think so.
All right, cool. All right, so I got a couple super chats here. First, super chat from Taker. Let me see if I can put that on screen. One moment here. Oh, there it is. Visible. Very good. All right, so Taker610, again, thank you for the super chat. Taker says, could Switch 2 be a powerhouse? Oh, I see I messed up the audio, but I'll fix that. Could Switch 2 be a powerhouse third-party darling?
I think
Go for it.
It will have a lot better third-party support, at least, than the current Switch, just because it will be able to run a lot more games. But I don't know if it will still get a lot of day and date stuff. It depends on how soon developers just start making most of their games in Unreal Engine 5. Although Unreal Engine 5 is very scalable, so they may be able to figure out versions of the game. The only thing I would be worried about with third parties in the future, honestly, is if they just make games that are like need ray tracing, like good ray tracing hardware to work. Because I think the Switch probably won't have any ray tracing, and if it does, it'll be like very mediocre. But, if we get we've seen good scaling already on Unreal Engine 5. If they would kind of have to make two versions of the game, one with ray tracing, one without. And if the developers are willing to do that, then we will see a lot more third parties on Switch than before. And there's still going to be a ton of developers, like even like the ray tracing capabilities that PS5 and Xbox Series X aren't like insane. And then you got the Series X to account for, which is basically like a PS4 Pro with some new features in terms of power. So I'm honest. I'm not too worried about it. I think yeah, we will see a big surge in third parties on Switch for the Switch 2.
Yeah. What do you think, Sarah?
I mean, yeah, I kind of agree, but Nintendo's always going to push out their first party stuff, I think.
Oh yeah.
More than anything. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it definitely see a lot more third party stuff.
The
third party is just kind of a great second pillar to help out.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page. As a hardcore Nintendo fan, if there wasn't any third-party support, I probably wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I might get into an argument with someone in the comments about it, but I'll be fine. I think it should be noted, though, that there's a long history of Nintendo fans thinking before a new Nintendo system comes out, oh, will this be the system that finally has great third-party support? And in truth, I think you can look at every generation, and it's never quite what I would say, what all of us are kind of hoping for, that it gets the same kind of games day and date as PlayStation and Microsoft. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not to say it doesn't happen. It does happen sometimes on Switch. And I think we could have some optimism that with Switch 2, it might even be a little bit better. And I agree with you. I think
it will happen more, because most of the games that were going to be day and date on Switch never actually ended up being day and date.
Oh yeah, like Harry Potter is continually. It's just
Potter,
that's the first thing that came to my mind. Yeah.
Every 2 months, it's like, hey, it's coming out, and it's like they wait.
That
2
game
months
is never coming out, bro. They're literally delaying it until Switch 2, bro, and so they can release the worst version we've ever seen, and then a confident Switch 2.
I think so too.
I guess I'm
the
gullible.
game barely runs on like way more powerful machines than the Switch.
I think it's gonna come out this November. I think the last delay they announced is the last delay. Maybe I'm gullible.
Watch it be the new Ark Survival Evolved.
I do have a problem though. When someone tells me something, I just inherently believe them. So
too trusting.
Unless there's like
you need to get more jaded.
Unless there's like hard evidence to the contrary, I'm like, okay, sure, why not? So I believe it, but I understand it's been delayed multiple times already. I just don't think there's any way that they could delay it like a third time and it'll be okay. I just don't I don't see that happening, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, I do ultimately agree.
Honestly,
I think there will be a surge of third-party support. Like I'm kind of hoping maybe we get like an Elden Ring or a Resident Evil 4 remake on Switch. Like portable versions of those games would be really hype. Like I think that's the big thing about like gaming on Nintendo now, is that anytime a big third-party game does come on Switch, it's not just, oh great, you have a lesser version. No, it's not necessarily lesser. It's portable and still able to give you relatively a decent console experience. So that I think that would be a big deal. I probably would finally play through Elden Ring if it was on Switch, because I could take it with me. I'd have more time. So I'm pulling for that. Maybe that'll be part of Switch 2's launch lineup next year. We'll see.
I don't know if I could play Elden Ring in public, just screaming at a train, just
rage quitting. Yeah.
So, for me, it's not so much that I'm gonna play it like on the train or something, right? But like, let's say I'm gonna go somewhere for a couple days, or I'm gonna be there for a day, right? And let's say maybe my parents want me to help out with something, so I'll just spend the whole day there. But maybe I won't be spending my entire time with them, so I might find myself for 30 minutes to an hour playing like that. That's kind of like where it would make sense for me. Or maybe I do go on a trip. I do go on a few trips a year, so I might take it on an airplane or something. So, but on to the next super chat here. Daniel Vargas, thank you for that super chat, buddy. Would you recommend Pikmin 4 to a newcomer? Yes. Yes, I would. I actually recommended it to Sarah like a week ago when we were talking about doing the podcast. I was like, hey, have you played Pikmin 4? She was like, no, I haven't played Pikmin before. I was like, well, you can play Pikmin 4. It basically just retcons the whole series, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. There's absolutely no way you won't know how to play the game, because it painstakingly teaches you how.
Oh yeah, it walks you through. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never played a
Tutorials are
Pikmin
pretty
game, and
hand-holdy.
I'm actually enjoying it. It's fun.
Well, actually, I
Good.
wouldn't say the tutorials are hand-holding. They're just very long explanations. They do let you kind of do
Yeah.
what you want when you're actually playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we'll get to Pikmin next, just so we can kind of have a little bit of a smooth transition. But yeah, the short answer is yes. I would recommend Pikmin 4 to a newcomer. I think it sets us up really well for anyone. Samuel A has renewed their membership. He's been a member for 6 straight months. Thanks for sticking around, buddy. Let's read the room on bets for Switch 2 launch timing. You know what? Sure, I'll put a poll. Why not? Let's do that. All right, let me come back to my
What are the
face here.
parameters going to be?
It's gonna be. Shut up! I'm unsubscribing. All right, maybe I should put that as an option.
Switch 2's coming in your dreams.
Oh, that's a good one, actually. I'm gonna put that. Let's see. When is Switch 2 coming out? Well, you know what? I'm crazy, and it's happening this year.
Could. It could.
Christmas, maybe.
Almost
No, I don't
certainly
think
not.
so.
Almost certainly not, but it could. Nintendo's wild company.
You
Nothing
never
they do
know.
ever makes sense. So
True.
No.
True.
Well, it makes sense in hindsight. It never makes sense beforehand, at least.
yeah.
That's
Sometimes
the
it doesn't make sense in hindsight either.
point. Okay. I think I only get 4 options, so.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna wipe.
Do quarters.
I'm gonna wipe 2023 as an option. You can say it in the chat if you
For
disagree with that.
2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just put like quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. If you only have 4
Oh,
options.
that makes sense. That's smart.
Aha,
Logical
using our
thinking.
brains here. This is why I'm the co-host.
Yeah, you made sense, Brandon. But I'm not gonna do that.
Ah, of course not.
Oh, I'm gonna do that, but not.
You can do that, but slightly different.
Yeah. Basically.
Gotta put your own flair on it.
And
Can't just copy my homework. You gotta make it look slightly different.
I think the Q's get confusing because we talk about fiscal year or calendar year. So that's
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I'd be talking calendar.
right.
not
So, but that's more effort. So. Okay. Alright, so I put when is Switch 2 coming out? Early 2024, mid 2024, late 2024, 2025, or beyond. I'm sorry if you're on the 2023 train, but it's we're in the second half of
It's
July.
2023 this year.
I don't think it's getting announced for this year.
Bro, I think either I'm getting old or my brain is melting because I swear I thought it was 2022.
Oh God.
No.
What's happening to me?
But let's while that poll goes on. Let's see here. Yes, let's start talking about Pikmin. So I mean, yeah, you know, I recommended Sarah to play Pikmin 4 because you don't really need to play prior Pikmin games. And I think the demo is really good. I've been playing through the Pikmin series in lead up to Pikmin 4 this Friday. But Sarah, how about you give me your thoughts? Like, what have you thought of the game so far as a newcomer?
Yeah, I like it. Like you said, it kind of so the beginning of the demo, is that kind of giving you like a background story of like the other Pikmin game? I've never played a Pikmin game.
Yes, it's so what's interesting is that it feels like it's
Very
kind of retelling the beginning,
Okay.
but also
It makes you
not.
think that it's telling Pikmin 1,
Right.
but then it starts saying things that didn't happen in Pikmin 1.
Yeah,
You're
so
just
I'm
sitting there confused, even if you've played all the games.
So to just answer what actually happens. So in Pikmin 1, Captain Olimar, the main character, right, the one you're looking for in Pikmin 4, he goes to this planet, presumably Earth. Like we've seen maps that look like Earth on there, so like it's probably Earth. Goes to Earth, and it's, you know, he's very small, right? So it's a very giant world, and he discovers this species, Pikmin. He discovers them in Pikmin 1. So what's interesting about Pikmin 4, if you read through it, if you pay attention to the beginning, he discovers them there, right? So it's not like, oh, I remember the Pikmin from a time beforehand. It acts as if he's discovering during this trip.
Yeah.
And so it implies that this is like the first trip, but it's different because yes, he had to collect his parts for his ship so he could come back, but at the way Pikmin 1 ends, there's multiple potential endings depending on how many parts you get. But in this one, he has a blue dog, which was not at all a part of any of the prior 3 Pikmin games, and he goes inside of a house.
Straight from Blue's Clues.
There you go. So these events with the blue dog going inside the house, like that's not where the last part was. And sending out an SOS message so a whole bunch of other people could come and rescue him. These are all new elements that are changing. You know, it's different. It's just not what happened. So you could have argued that maybe that Pikmin 4 is taking place after like the bad ending of Pikmin 1, where Olimar crash lands back onto the planet. But the house thing, the blue dog thing, those
he
are
never
just
leaves the planet again. He just calls for an SOS.
Right? Yeah, he doesn't crash back. Like he doesn't die. He's just missing. So it's
I don't know why he doesn't just leave. I'm very confused.
I don't. And we'll probably get into this when we get into the Zelda end of this discussion, right? But like, whenever I play a game or I experience a story, personally, this is just a personal thing, I don't like to accept retcons. And what I mean by that is, I obviously understand that a writer or creator is going to make changes as the series progresses, right? Especially the longer it goes on for, right? But I try to make it fit. I try to make it fit. Like, sometimes things can happen where you can do some mental gymnastics to make it work. Like, for example, in Tears of the Kingdom, right? The king and queen, they are related to Zelda, but we don't actually see their kids. Some people call that a plot hole. I just say, okay, they had kids off screen. There's no proof to the contrary, so I still think it can make sense, right? So while I'm playing Pikmin 4, I'm like thinking, okay, so the only way this can make sense is if Captain Olimar had a head injury and he lost all his memory. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that will somehow make it make sense, but so far, nothing. It just feels like they've just changed the history, but we'll see.
I mean, so far it doesn't feel like, I don't feel like I need to have played the previous games to play it. Like, I'm still in the demo, but like they explain things that I feel like the transition's pretty smooth between like the first section to like the second section of the demo. So I don't know. The game looks fantastic, I think.
Oh yeah.
Looks really good.
Incredible.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. Like I think it looks real. I'm very impressed with how the game looks.
It's something I've been looking forward to seeing for a long time, because I've always been hoping that they were going to do an Unreal Engine 4 Pikmin game for Pikmin 4, and then they did, and I was like, oh my gosh, they actually did it, and it looks even better than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive, and I put out a little video talking about it last week. Like, it just kind of floors me. All the effects are very impressive, and I mean, it's still early, right? But I think this might be the best Pikmin game, which I think is saying a lot because each game is good. But this one, I don't know, there's something about it that feels a little bit more captivating. It's kind of drawing me in a little bit more, if that makes any sense. Maybe it's just because I
really want to keep playing it.
Right.
I don't want to go back through, like an hour and a half of tutorials and things I've already done to do the tiny bit of the demo I didn't get to do. But I am really excited to play the full game.
Yeah. I finished the demo entirely last night. Like, I can't go back to it unless I start over. But that was Sunday
That's the only
night,
thing about the demo is I wish it just let you do the whole area. Because you can, if you're efficient, do the whole area.
You can just not collect treasure, which really...
I almost got everything in the terrace. I ended up getting like 60 or 70% of it, and I didn't even try to get everything. I just hit 50 or 1500 pretty early on in the day on accident, just by chance. And so I had a lot of the extra day to get more, and I ended up getting to almost like 2500. What is it called?
Sparklium?
Sparklium. I thought Glimmerium for some reason. But yeah, Sparklium. I got almost 2,500, and I wasn't even really trying to get as much as I could.
I got around 2,000. Because after a certain point, I was like, oh, I'll probably still at least have the whole day to explore. Because I was in a cave, like I have 100% of the cave, and I was like, oh, okay.
Time still does move in caves, just not as much.
Very slow,
it's like 6
though.
times slower.
Right? Yeah. So like, you usually still have plenty of time afterwards if you do the cave early on.
Yeah,
and
it's not quite like Pikmin 2, where time I believe stops in that game.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, I think they did a good job, because the idea of a demo is not for you to play the demo and be satisfied. No, the idea of a demo is for you to play it.
That is fair.
Get a proper demonstration of the game, understand what it is, and be like, oh, I need this in my life. So, you know, if they gave you more ways to kind of go beyond, then, you know, that would potentially hurt things.
The only thing is, it's just annoying that you can do it. They just make it really tedious to do so. It's like it's totally possible just to do everything. You just kind of have to replay through parts.
Well, you could argue that might be a good I would argue it's a good thing, because that's kind of challenging players to get the most out of they can out of a demo, playing it more, and then it's almost like a challenge, right? Like kind of like a speed run, or like some sort of challenge mode where, oh, okay, can you collect all the treasure without getting to 1,500? So then you have to strategize a little bit more, right? So I think I understand that it annoys you, but I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna do it. It's not like making me play the demo more. I'm just not going to do it.
I can wait 4 days.
Wait for the full game.
I can wait 4 days. So yeah. But I think it's cool though that like you can easily spend like 3 to 4 hours on the demo. Like that's a significant amount. And it's not an RPG, right? Like there are RPGs that have like you know, like a demo. Like a lot of the HD 2D games, they usually like release like a demo. It's like, hey, you can play this, basically start the game and transfer over your save data, which you can do with this. And those are pretty long, and like that's a cool thing that they're doing that. But to see like a internally developed Nintendo title that is clearly, you know, has some actual, like this you were talking about like Sparklium, right? Like this game to me screams Nintendium. Like it feels like a very Nintendo game, if that makes any sense. Like it has like that Nintendo magic, that Nintendo flair. So to have a game like that where we can get a demo that is pretty like in depth,
it's a good sized demo.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if they were to do something like this for like Zelda. Like, what if they were to do something like this for like Tears of the Kingdom, where you could go all the way up until the end of the Great Sky Island, for example.
I think the only reason they didn't is they didn't need to. It's like Pikmin is a very unknown. It's known
more
among
niche.
the hardcore Nintendo fans, obviously, but outside of like hardcore Nintendo fans, I doubt many people know what Pikmin is. So having a demo where people can experience it and play it and see how great it is really important. Whereas Tears of the Kingdom, you know, they didn't need a demo. You know, everybody was gonna buy that game anyways. So I think it makes perfect sense. But it would be great just to have more demos in general. But it's also like it can be a depending on how the demo's set up and how early you want to release the demo. It can add further dev time to actually like curate a part of the game for people. So it's not like purely dev cost-free thing. They don't just whip it up in like an hour or something. It takes time out of the development of the game to do so.
Yeah, I get that.
For smaller projects, I feel like it is really worth it because you need people to play the game and, you know, put their reactions up on social media and stuff and spread the word.
Well,
so people will buy it.
So I think it's interesting you bring up how, you know, demos take extra time and resources for a developer, because they do, like to your point, like they have to make sure they have to kind of like design like a slice of the game in a way where players can play it without just learning everything about the game, and so it doesn't break. Like that, there's a lot of effort that goes into that. I think that's a great point. But I think what's also interesting is that Nintendo can do something like that probably fairly easy, because I think it's more evidence that a lot of their games have been done for a long time and they're just sitting on them. So
it's true. Nintendo has the kind of freedom to release games whenever they feel like it. So they're not running into a lot of problems that, even huge AAA developers across the other parts of the industry are having, where they're being forced to release games that are like barely even functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you think I've I pay attention to like the amount of like published titles Nintendo comes out with per year. I haven't like measured it recently, so I'm kind of, this is anecdotal, but my perspective is that it's more than perspective. Like I just don't remember the exact numbers, but like you look at like the times during like the DS, the Wii, the 3DS, and the Wii U, they were coming out with around 20-ish published Nintendo titles per year, give or take a handful. But like we're talking about like 15 to 25 Nintendo published titles per year. Not all those are major. Like, a lot of those like are smaller things, eShop releases. Like there's a big mix, right? But there's a lot coming up between both platforms. And now you look at how they're just focusing on the Switch. It isn't 20, right? It's somewhere between like 10 and 15. Like it's clearly a lower overall output in terms of just straight up releases. But by focusing on one platform, right, and not having to produce as many individual titles, they're able to have kind of more bang for their buck, right? Like, because the Switch is what it is, it's both handheld and a home console offering. Like, think about this. Like, back during the Wii U 3DS era, they had to make 2 different Smash Bros. Games. They didn't have to do that for Switch. They made Smash Ultimate, and it sold better than Wii U and 3DS combined. So I think it did, at least. But point is, just the overall framework they have now, it facilitates them just kind of focusing on making games consistently. And we're at a point now where they're not rushing games. If the game is bad, it's because they just made a decision, they ran with it like everybody wanted to Switch. I mean,
the only really Nintendo franchise, it's not owned solely by Nintendo, would be Pokemon. Their releases are 110% rushed.
They always have to do like patches and stuff on them like right after release.
Oh yeah. I mean, Scarlet and Violet is still in a...
Brandon, was that meant to be an intentional segue?
No, but it can be.
It can be, but I feel like we could talk more about Pikmin, so I'm just like, it's such a good segue, but...
We could always go back to Pikmin.
Pikmin 4 is amazing. I think it's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to reviews popping up, like, tomorrow or the next day? Yeah, not that I need reviews to know that I want this game. I'm just really excited about it. Well, I'm sorry. I'm gonna ruin your segue because I still want to check on the chat anyways. But
okay.
Yeah, Sarah. Before we move on to the chat though, like, because I know it's your kind of your first time experiencing. Like, is there something about Pikmin 4 so far that's like sort of surprised you at all? That stood out?
I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, the game really does just look gorgeous. Like you said, it has like that Nintendo feel to it. Like, it just has like, I don't know. It just feels nostalgic. Like, I didn't play the other games, but it just already feels nostalgic, like in that Nintendo way. So I'm enjoying it. I still haven't finished the demo yet, but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a hardy demo. Yeah,
it's great having like a Game Boy Advance SP
that was
be like
cool.
One of the first treasures you find. That's definitely
I thought
nice.
that was cool. Yeah, there is something that's kind of hard to put your finger on, like, about it, that just makes it look special. Because I think Brandon kind of touched on this. I don't know if we talked about this publicly or not, Brandon, but we were kind of talking about this wouldn't be the first time we've talked about the game's visuals. But
yeah,
like, we were talking about it, and you were remarking on how, because they're using Unreal, and you think maybe the reason they went for Unreal is because they're kind of going for some realistic looking elements. But they're not realistic. It's just kind of like using some realistic look at like effects in a more animated like environment. It is kind of, maybe that's kind of helping to kind of convey this more Nintendo magic. I don't know. Like it just
they're not quite going for photorealism,
No.
but they have this very realistic look to a lot of the materials. And the lighting, I'm pretty sure, is some kind of
I think that makes a big difference.
Offline ray traced solution.
The lighting adds a lot of depth, and I think the lighting is better than what we see from most Nintendo games. I think that helps a lot.
having like individual, actually really nicely filtered shadows underneath each of the Pikmin, that was great. Actually,
Yeah.
the shadow filtering, and this may sound really dumb to people who aren't like techies, but the shadow filtering in this game is extremely impressive to me, because a lot of times in Nintendo games, and just the image quality in general, like there's just pretty much no aliasing in this game. But a lot of Nintendo games have aliasing, not just because they don't use anti-aliasing, but the shadow resolution in Nintendo games are often very low, and they don't really filter them, so they're just kind of like raw and jagged. But the shadows in this game can get pretty low sometimes, and you can kind of see it. But they're filtered so well that even when they're extremely low resolution, they look great. And most of the time, they're actually pretty great resolution, so they look absolutely stellar. Like you can look at the individual. You can have 100 Pikmin with 100 individual little shadows, and you can see the shape of their body and the leaf very clearly, and you're not getting aliasing and sparkling all over the screen, and it just looks very consistent and polished in a way that a lot of Switch games don't. And I think that's very impressive.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot going on there that's helping with the polish. And it's not just a graphics thing. There is technology there that's helping, but like, the simple, maybe it's not a simple decision, but the decision they made to bring the camera in closer, to make it feel more like a third-person action adventure, but also still having the tech to where you can pull out the camera to still have that traditional Pikmin sort of perspective and kind of go back and forth in between seamlessly.
Yeah.
Like, I think that adds
like
a lot.
Great detail on both. You
Yeah.
pull out, you see all this great detail, and you pull in, and the micro detail still holds up. That was kind of my issue with Pikmin 3, which was initially a Wii game, but they did do a lot to make it look better on Wii U, and it did actually have some impressive lighting and materials for that title, though it was very inconsistent, I'd say, in the presentation of those. You could definitely tell they were tacked on, but that game, crap, what was my initial point?
I don't know.
God.
I don't know, Brandon. I could say something. I guess there's other things I want to say, so I can start saying and then
continue.
Just let me know.
I'll remember. I'll remember.
I do want to say that like there's other elements about this that I think kind of help this to feel more special. So I think it was very smart to bring in the dog. I think bringing in the dog, I think how you can jump on the dog, you can move around quicker, you can jump around now, and you can build up even more and more abilities. The Pikmin can jump onto the dog. These may sound like basic things on the surface, but when you kind of bring it all together, it's really streamlining the Pikmin experience. And I think it kind of ties into the camera thing I brought up, because what this game feels like, it is still Pikmin, but they're also kind of turning it into a bit like an action adventure at the same time. Like it's become an exploration game. And it's not to say you weren't exploring before, but they made exploration more fun. And I think that's adding to the experience. I think that's probably going to help it appeal to a larger audience. And it kind of helped the demo to feel cool, because like, oh, there's all these big environments you can kind of see off into the distance, and you want to look, you want to see what's there, you want to go there. So it's kind of going back to what we mentioned earlier, how there's something about this game that seems to draw you in more. It might be that. It might be that the exploration is done better, so it's just bringing in more people because they want to explore more, want to find more. And the way they handle the controls for Pikmin, I think it's been streamlined too. So it's easier to throw Pikmin. There's a reticle that locks onto enemies. You can send hordes a lot quicker and easier. It's snappy. All the dog mechanics, like all of that together, I think really helps to make this feel like a fun, smooth, polished experience.
They add like RPG elements and stuff with like the leveling up your dog and things.
Yeah.
But I remember what I was gonna say before my cat made me forget.
Oh, okay.
But the detail level is great, whether you pull out or you get close. That was kind of my issue with Pikmin 3, is a lot of the textures on everything was very low resolution. So you would pull in and it would look kind of very bad, and you would pull out and be like, okay, this looks pretty good. But in this game, it looks great no matter how close you get to things.
Yeah, no, it does look great. But let's check in with the chat here. I got another super chat here from Daniel Vargas. Let me put it up. So, thanks for that super chat, buddy. Are there overworld bosses in Pikmin? Yes.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So there are bosses. I don't know if there are bosses. Like, there are enemies and there are bosses. Like, sometimes I'm not sure if an enemy is a boss or just an enemy, I guess. But basically, if they're bigger and there's battle music, that's like an arena, that's a boss. But it is all like a seamless transition. There's nothing. There's no like
cutscenes or whatever. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's all seamless. You can walk into the environment and there'll be a giant monster. You fight it the same way you might walk into a smaller area. You'll just see a random monster and you'll fight it. So yes, there are overworld bosses. What's up here? Let's check with the chat. Okay, I had a few ads earlier. I missed them. Giancarlo. What if the princess that sealed the Calamity Ganon or the hero is the son daughter of Sonia Raru? Yeah, that's possible. I don't want to dive too much into spoiler territory, but
you read the question again?
Sure. What if the princess that sealed the Calamity Ganon or the hero is a son daughter of Sonia Raru? So in Breath of the Wild, there's a tapestry that shows like a princess and a warrior fighting Calamity Ganon. What Giancarlo was speculating or asking about is if maybe the children or child of Sonia Raru is one of the two we see in the tapestry. I think I'll say that there is a skin that you unlock. I don't want to, without spoiling. There is a skin that you unlock. There's armor. There's armor that you unlock, or there are things you unlock. But okay, there are things you unlock. Equipment that you unlock after you've gone all the shrines that have implications, but it's not made concrete as far as I'm aware. I haven't gone all the shrines myself yet, so that's why I haven't made a video about this, because I kind of want to experience it myself before I, start composing theories about that particular element of the story. But I do think it's possible, but we don't have solid information on it yet. Let's see here. Netweed09. Tears of the Kingdom being May was the key. They easily could have pushed that back to September, but they didn't, so they want September vacant. What? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
What is his point?
Tears of the Kingdom DLC, if any, will be announced next year, so that's even more encouraging for this year's September. September is a vacant month, so I'll say that if Switch 2 is coming out early 2024, then maybe they want to announce it this year, which may seem weird because they have the holidays to worry about, but maybe. Got another super chat here from Samuel A. Thank you for that super chat, buddy. With the Pikmin 1 and 2 ports, do you think this opens the door for Twilight Princess or Wind Waker? Likely 4K on Switch 2, though, and Prime 2 and 3. Yeah, to answer that quite simply, I do think that Nintendo's sort of establishing a pattern where every Direct, they have some sort of shadow drop GameCube port. So, Prime Remaster was February, Pikmin 1 and 2 were not as significant, but there was two of them together as a deal, right? I feel like the way Pikmin 1 and 2 were handled with this Direct, we could see Prime and 2 and 3 dropped in a similar way. They won't be as remastered as Prime 1, they'll be more like simple upscales like Pikmin 1 and 2, but they'll be at a discounted price, especially if you buy them as a bundle. And I think a lot of Metroid fans would appreciate that. You put that out, and then when they showcase Prime 4, it kind of hype fans up a little bit. Wind Waker and Twilight Princess are a little different, though. Just because they got a more significant remaster treatment a while ago on Wii U, right? So do you port the old GameCube versions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, or do you give us the newer version that came out for Wii U? The Wii U version, right?
The old versions. I'm going to be so upset.
I would be happy with whatever at this point.
I mean, I would still take it, but I would scratch my head.
It wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense if they have
just kind of better.
Yeah.
I love the originals. I played them all on GameCube. Even.
Yeah, but
I play the Wii version.
But there's nothing.
I mean, I could see them using the hype around Tears of the Kingdom, like bringing so many new people to the Zelda franchise, because like even people that hadn't played Breath of the Wild are playing Tears of the Kingdom. They could be using that as a way to get people into the franchise and then bring the ports over to kind of like increase interest in them, I guess. But that's wishful thinking on my part, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I kind of wondered after Breath of the Wild, like how Nintendo would handle bringing in the other Zelda games that were linear, because maybe that would convey a different message they didn't want to, you know? Because maybe like if they're a newcomer to Breath of the Wild, right? And they're like, oh, so Zelda's like about open world adventure, cool. So then they get Link's Awakening, like, what the hell is this? They get Skyward Sword HD, is like, well, what's this? This is very different. But they still put out those games, and they did so relatively well. I think most people just kind of get it. So I guess Twilight Princess Wind Waker could come. I don't know if they tie it into. I mean, obviously they didn't, right? So they didn't tie those games into Tears of the Kingdom. I thought they could have done that last year. It does feel like a missed opportunity. But, you know, I think there are also games that can just drop at any point. You know, like maybe you're not wrong, right? Maybe they do drop it in September. Like they could have a direct and like, hey, Twilight Princess Wind Waker are available on the Switch. Have at it. They just probably be like $60, you know, like they won't be like a budget price like Pikmin 1 and 2.
And it's not going to be bundled together. Like they're definitely going to be selling them separately because they know people will buy them both separately.
I personally don't think they'll sell both for $60 each. I think I feel like there'll be a bundle, but it won't be a cheap bundle. It won't be like it'll definitely won't be like Pikmin.
It won't be $60 for both, yeah.
I hope.
I don't know. I know people would pay $60 for both. I would pay $60 for both.
I know I would pay $60 for both, but
I wouldn't be happy about it, but I would.
I wouldn't. I have it on my Wii U. It's not dead yet. I wouldn't.
Okay, well, we don't all have a Wii U, so.
Right.
What if they?
You're right.
What if they make them 60 FPS versions? And then, you know, when the Switch 2 comes out, and they 4K patch, 4K 60 FPS.
Yeah, I would get it if both were together for $60. That's what I would do.
Yeah, honestly, that is the reasonable price. Honestly, a more reasonable price would be both of them for $40 if it was literally anybody but Nintendo. But hey, that's never gonna happen.
Here's an idea. Yeah, maybe you can sell each for $40, but bundle them for $70.
Yeah.
I would do that.
I would take that. I would do
that. Which is
that's not bad.
It's still high enough that people are going to be upset, but it's not so high that people won't buy it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I would be less upset than 60 for each for sure. That would be digestible. It's only $10 more than 60 for both. It's not horrible.
Yeah. So, Dr. Kokiri, since we're talking about older Zelda games, perhaps Nintendo can remake Twilight Princess or Wind Waker, since the hype is still fresh for Tears of the Kingdom. Remake.
I don't think Wind Waker needs a remake at all. I think Wind Waker, even the GameCube version, still holds up. I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess, if you play Twilight Princess now, it looks like garbage. Like, I mean, it's fine, but it doesn't hold up the same way.
Yeah.
It definitely looks a lot better than the GameCube version, but it still doesn't hold up. You're just slapping like better textures over like basically no geometry, and it looks really weird.
I mean, Nintendo is okay with releasing upscale GameCube games as long as people know what it is. I think Nintendo is okay with that. But I mean, I agree that Twilight Princess has not aged as well as Wind Waker. I
would love it if they remade it in the style of I believe it's
Zelda
Elden Bridge.
Elden?
No. No. It's Smash Ultimate. It's Smash Ultimate. The bridge level.
The Bridge of Elden.
Bridge of Elden.
That would be really cool.
That looks insane. It's not something that the Switch couldn't do. It's very reasonable.
You know what's crazy about that is that would kind of the vibe that gives it to me is like in terms of like from a tech perspective, it kind of feels like how Primary Mastered looks. So like, imagine they made Twilight Princess with the same level of graphics fidelity as Prime Remastered. That would be crazy. I don't. My personal opinion is that they're not gonna remake Twilight Princess or Wind Waker.
I don't see it happening.
They'll remake Twilight Princess eventually.
Well,
in
yeah,
20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the key point here. It's not that I don't think that they could ever be remade. I just don't think the time is right for that. I think they will probably eventually give us the ports, maybe in 4K at 60 FPS, like you said.
But if they're doing remakes,
practically perfect. There's no reason.
I think we're all thinking the same thing. Go ahead, say it, or prove me wrong. What are you gonna say?
Me?
Yeah, if they're doing remakes.
If they're doing remakes, it's gonna be 2D like they did with Link's Awakening, which I wouldn't be mad at either.
I agree with that. That's
Oracle of Ages, Oracles of Seasons, maybe.
Okay, yeah. They are adding those to NSO, but that doesn't mean they can't eventually remake them. I would like to see. I mean, I think most of the 2D Zeldas are available on NSO because Minish Cap is there too.
Yeah, but I do feel like
Link Between
Phantom
Worlds.
Hourglass and Spirit Tracks need remakes to work well on
those
system.
need it. But I also
and I think a lot of people haven't even played a lot of the I haven't played a lot of the DS Zeldas, or like I've played parts of them and I just like never owned them.
Phantom Hourglass is very good, but it's not like exceptional. Spirit Tracks is great. However, I don't think either of them are as good as Link Between Worlds. But that's my personal favorite. So.
Okay. I'll read this last question here, and then we'll move on. I want to say a couple things, and then we'll get to the next topic. Dank Meme Center. I would prefer they touch the portable iteration of Zelda. Do you all see top-down Zelda be the next direction with the open mindset? I mean, open mindset.
Well, so a little bit last week.
Yeah, so Link Between Worlds does have a little bit of that open mindset. I think the same way, Nintendo took a long time to give us Mario Wonder. I think, it's just a matter of time. We will get a 2D Zelda. I don't think that they're done with it. It's just Nintendo has so many games to bring out. They have plans. They can afford to wait 6 to 7 years between games. Like that's fine. Maybe 8, which seems like a long time. But I do think it's coming. Now, what direction they go in, that's tough. I'm okay with the format we saw Link Between Worlds. I mean,
love that game.
I really like that one too.
I wouldn't mind if it was kind of open. Like, Brandon, you brought this up last week too. Like, what if they made a more fleshed out version of like that Breath of the Wild 2D Zelda top-down prototype? I would be
just
all in on that.
Something with some kind of physics-based gameplay.
And it could still be linear, but just have those physics. Like, I think that would be really cool. I'd be very much into it. Since we're kind of touching on it, I do think Ocarina of Time might be remade within the next few years. I've been pulling for that. We'll see.
I would love it. Be a dream
I would love
come
that
true.
too.
I would not believe my eyes when that came out. Like, I think it's possible, but it's just so much of a something I've wanted my entire life that it doesn't feel like it could happen.
Well, But
do you think if they remade Ocarina of Time, they would also remake Majora's Mask to go hand in hand with that, or
not at the same time?
Not at first.
But
I mean, they didn't do Majora's Mask 3D at the same time as Ocarina of Time 3D.
But
true, yeah.
But think of it like this, right? Like, once they do remake Ocarina of Time, what are people going to be saying? Oh, Majora's Mask remake, like every direct Majora's Mask remake, like people are going to continue.
That'll be me.
I mean, that's what happened with Majora's Mask 3D. I mean, it happens so much that they put a tease for the game in A Link Between Worlds.
Yeah.
It'll just give us all something to live for. So, I mean, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Nintendo always wants you to have something hype, especially if they're already planning to do it. Like, bro, they want you begging for it.
Yeah, they do. They know what they're doing.
Totally. So, Samuel A., what do you think is 2024 Zelda game? Just Tears of the Kingdom DLC. That's what I think. Maybe they'll throw in some sort of. Maybe that's when we get Wind Waker and Twilight Princess in the second half. But I'm thinking just Tears of the Kingdom DLC. So let's move on to the next topic here. All right. So we'll talk about Pokemon, then we'll jump into Zelda. But before I do, there's a couple things I actually wanted to say. I wanted to probably say at the beginning of the podcast, but it's fine. We can do it now. First, guys, like the stream. It would be helpful. The more people like the stream, the more people will actually see the stream. So that would be very much appreciated. And I'll also say, since we are talking a little bit about Zelda, there may be the Zelda theory video I posted about a couple days ago that I've been working on. That may come out tomorrow. I may have to pull an all-nighter to do it, but that may be coming out tomorrow, and there will be a giveaway with that as well. I'm fairly sure I can say this publicly. So I've partnered with Vosone, so you can get certain merchandise for free, the first few hundred people. So I will probably make some sort of post a few hours before I actually publish it, just so people can have like a set, like some level of a window if you want to kind of be like, it's like a first come first serve. But that'll be coming out. The video is going to be about exploring Ganondorf's motive in Tears of the Kingdom, because at first glance Ganondorf's motive in Tears of the Kingdom is kind of like not very clear or very simple, and after kind of theorizing and analyzing it a little bit deeper, I think there's more to it than that. So that video probably will be coming out tomorrow.
Nice.
I just probably won't be sleeping, but that's fine.
Worth it.
Yeah, and also
Don't need
this green blanket that you see, it's gonna be gone next week. I'm still gonna have the green blanket. I still may do some green stuff occasionally.
It's gonna die.
But it's not gonna be the background.
Green blanket.
Right? This is a placeholder, right? The actual studio that I've been teasing for the last half year that I actually eventually do, it is currently under construction. So hopefully by this Monday there will be a more set. There'll be an actual set that will look cool, that will work, and probably won't change for a hopefully not so long amount of time. We'll see what life brings me, right? I don't know if I'll decide to move 6 months later, but I doubt I will. So yeah, new set next week. But anyways, let's get to the next topic, and that's about Pokemon. So there are rumors that next year's Pokemon game is going to be set in the Unova region, Generation 5. Now, it may seem too soon for a remake. I agree. Like, if you look at the history of remakes for Pokemon games, so Fire Red Leaf Green came out 2004, Gen 2 Heart Gold Soul Silver came out 2009, that's a 5-year gap. Then 5 years later, Gen 3 Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire 2014, another 5-year gap. Then after that, we waited 7 years until the end of 2021 to get Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. So there are long gaps between remakes. So I don't expect that we'll get another remake of Gen 5 3 years later. Now, you could argue that we have the Let's Go series, which is kind of like a whole other thing. So maybe we get a Let's Go game next year. But the rumor is that something Generation 5 Unova related is happening next year. This is coming from the Riddler, who's consistent with what they know. Problem is that they riddle things, so it's never 100% clear what they're indicating, but they're always indicating something they know about. And so we're not entirely sure what it may be, but he put out a poll, and there was a few different options. There was a Let's Go Unova remake, Legends, Pokemon Legends, Kyurem, and Paradox Unova. I think it's Pokemon Legends, because I just don't think it makes sense to remake a game. It would be so cool. It would be so cool. And the sales of Legends Arceus were actually really good. They're like 14.8 million, while Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were just at 15. Yeah, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were 2 versions, which definitely boosts sales because people double dip. It had a whole dedicated holiday season. It's been out on the Switch since 2018, while Arceus has only been out since early 2022. And it didn't have a game that was announced shortly afterwards. They kind of cut the hype on it, right? Because Scarlet and Violet was announced like a month after Legends Arceus came out. So all these things hurt Legends Arceus sales, yet it's still just shy of 15 million. So I think the Legends series has shown that it has way more sales potential than a Let's Go series. So if it's too early for a next generation game, right? and we got to get something next year, and it's not going to be a remake, maybe Legends is where it's at. So
they launch a Legends game, like on the Switch too, because I assume that will probably be out by the time this comes out, because it'll probably launch like November. Not the console, the game. So I assume the Switch 2 will probably be out by then. So if they get like a really good like version of the concept they were going for with Legends Arceus, because as you said, Andres, pretty great game, pretty game freak in terms of technical prowess. But if they can make something like on Switch 2 that has like just as good of a game with like more polish, because hopefully they can do something with better hardware, and it's not just like some core issue that they can't solve with better hardware, hopefully. And they got like a really good polished game, like a Pokemon game, like the first Pokemon game that actually feels like a console Pokemon game. I think that could be really big for them, and it could change the narrative for Pokemon if they come up with something that's actually really really nice and polished.
And they did, yeah. If
yeah, that's a big if. But maybe the hardware on Switch 2 will give them enough grunt that they can push through their issues.
I do think it's gonna be cross-gen, because Game Freak Pokemon Company, they rarely are the first adopters for a next generation system. Like it's, they're not gonna just not have it available for the large install base of the Switch. That makes no sense for them. Like they may have a better version made available for Switch 2 or like a patch or something, but it's definitely going to be still for Switch. I mean, the thing is, I don't think any Pokemon games are really pushing Switch. It's just poorly optimized. No. Like they could make them look and run a lot better. So I think just a better running version of that engine could be a significant improvement, even if it was just for Switch. But yeah, do you guys think that this is likely at all? Like, does it make sense to you? Do you kind of disagree in any way? Do you think it might be something else?
When they came out with Legends Arceus, I don't know, I thought that they were gonna make it into like Legends games were gonna be like a thing. Like they were gonna do all of the regions. Maybe not all of them, but like
like a recurring thing.
I think it's definitely I think it's definitely a possibility. That's what, out of all of those options, that's definitely what I would want to see the most. But I know it wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah, it wasn't everyone's cup of tea, right? But you go back to like the sales thing. Neither was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. You know, but 15 million is not a small number, and I legitimately think that if they gave a Legends game the proper advertising cycle, they actually gave it a holiday season, it would do really well. It would do really well.
A Legends series definitely would draw a pipe, whereas Let's Go, I think casual audience will end up picking up, but I think the core audience will probably be pretty meh about it in general. I think that would be kind of the social media take. I would assume would be pretty just meh across the board.
What, for another Let's Go game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, I think if they did another Let's Go game, it wouldn't sell as well as Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. I think Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee had the advantage of being the first HD Pokemon games, and also Kanto is it brings in the nostalgia factor more than other generations. So I mean, that's another
people
point.
Were willing to accept it because there was the idea that they were working on a full next gen, next generation, but also like next gen in terms of it being a Switch game. That was going to come out I think it came out the next year, right? So there was kind of the expectation that very soon they were going to get what they wanted, so they were willing to accept that.
Right. Yeah, but the thing is, we get new generations every 3 years, right? Like, if everyone knows it's that the next generation is going to happen in probably 2025, unless they change their pattern, which they haven't in over a decade. So
we just don't know if it's going to be like an actually polished experience, though.
That's
back on the 3DS, you could expect that the next Pokemon game was going to be a great polished experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It might have a bit of frame rate issues if you turn the 3D on or something like that, because those were pushing the 3DS, so it made sense. It was fair. Nowadays, you get huge frame drops and issues, and you look at the graphics and you're like, man, this would not pass for a early PS3, maybe even late PS2 game.
Yeah. But I just think Legends game would be cool. Like from a gameplay perspective, I think they're really good. So they kind of like polish that up, enhance it a little bit more. Here's a little fun fact. Legends Arceus it has the highest Metacritic score of all mainline Pokemon games on Switch. Like it's only in the 80s, but everything else is lower. It's kind of interesting that it's like that. So I think most people would be happy with a Legends game. But also, like, there's like from a lore perspective, right? Like there's a lot they could tell us, like about like Kyurem, for example. Like, why is its wings so messed up? You know, they could give us more story there, which would be cool.
Mhm.
Legends was relatively polished compared to some of the other Pokemon
Compared
games.
to Scarlet and Violet. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
It didn't really have any like game-breaking issues. It was just kind of ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they made a
I didn't even
Legends
think
game
it
with
was
good
ugly.
graphics, it'd be fine.
I just think it has some parts that look basic.
It's just artistically not done right. You can tell that they didn't have the time to polish the game.
I definitely agree.
It's just like
They could have done a lot more. Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
It's not quite as bad as Scarlet and Violet, where it looks like there's just like straight up didn't finish the game, but there are areas there's just like massive tiling issues, just like things we've had basic fixes for these things for like 15-20 years. Like, these are issues we solved so long ago, but they're popping up in this game.
Yeah. So let's take this conversation in a slightly different direction. I remember when Legends Arceus came out, there was debate on how do you pronounce the name. Is it Legends Arceus, Legends Arceus? Right? I see Super Chris has been correcting me on how to say Kyurem. Super Chris, thank you for modding, by the way. I say Kyurem, but I know like the anime movies say Kyurem. I don't like that. Right? But then I also say Arceus, but I know a lot of people say Arceus, and they've looked it up. It just depends on which region. Like there are official dubs for both that they pronounce Arceus or Arceus. So I don't think there's a wrong answer.
I feel like these are not real people, so you can pronounce the name however you feel like who you're offending. This is the character in the game, guys. It's fine.
It's a Pokemon. Old Arceus.
I think I did say Arceus, and then enough people were like, "No, it's Arceus." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. Like,
Right.
whatever makes you happy, that's fine."
Well, now
Not
Chris is
peer
now
pressure.
Chris is saying it's Arceus, not Arceus. So I think it's one of those things that no matter what, there's always gonna be someone like, no, it's this way. I think it's
I need the source material to believe. So no, I'm just kidding.
I don't. I
don't care either way.
I just don't care.
Yeah.
Like I try to say things pretty accurately, but it's first off, the English language is just it has so many contradictions. And then we're going to talk about names of creatures where the games don't
Made
even made up creatures.
Yeah.
That we don't even have like an official voice acted game, right? Like this comes from like animes or movies that most of us don't even watch.
Take the Pikachu as voice acting though.
Yeah, that's gonna truly canonize how we pronounce different names.
Fantastic voice acting, by the way.
Yeah, that's the only thing that kind of I think might be good about the game. No, I'm sure it's gonna be good. I just wasn't impressed with the latest trailer.
The graphics just did not look that great.
It looked like an FTL 3DS game.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. All right. Oh god. Oh no. I cannot see the chat anymore.
What did you do?
I don't know what I did. Okay, well, I figured it out. LP adds me. Do you think we would also get black and white remakes like Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl with Legends? I kind of don't want them to, but that's a good question because I mean they did that beforehand. But as I was kind of arguing before, I think putting out 2 different Pokemon games, yes, I think a lot of people double dipped. Maybe some people triple dipped. They bought Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and like both Diamond and Pearl, and then Arceus, right? Like that's all 3. That's a lot of money, but I kind of want them to just focus on one thing. I also think it's way too soon to get a Generation 5 remake. That's my thing. Maybe it's not. I mean, I'm only saying like Legends Kyurem because we have a credible leaker indicating that something Unova is happening next year. So, you know, I wouldn't have even guessed Unova. I would have guessed maybe like Legend Celebi for Gen 2. Like, I think that might make more sense. But also, like, I mean, like Sarah, like you were saying, right? Like you were kind of thinking like this would be a series. If this is gonna be a series, they can't just remake every generation every time they come out with one, can they?
Mhm.
I hope not. I didn't even like Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Like I liked it, but I barely liked it. Like I beat the Elite Four. I was like, okay, I'm done. I didn't go back to it. It felt very basic to me, and it's kind of like I remember like Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. Those felt like they had more spirit to them. Like when I played those remakes, like those were like the Pokemon games I played for a good long while. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl was okay. I'll play this for a few days and that's it. Like it wasn't anything special. I really don't want them to kind of do that again. Maybe the next time they do remake something, it's better. But I just hope they focus on a Legends game. But of course, Pokemon Company will do everything they can to make more money. So we'll see. All right. Get to this super chat here, and then we'll move on. Samuel A, thank you for the super chat, buddy. Do you think Game Freak adjusts their release schedule for Switch 2? If they don't, it could be very, very dire.
Well, I'm sure they've known about the Switch 2 through the entire development of it, basically.
I think we're fine. Like I think that they have Pokemon content coming out every single year. So whatever it is that they have coming out, they'll just make it. They'll have some version of it available on Switch 2. It won't be an exclusive. It'll just be there. So I don't really think it's gonna be dire. I'm not worried. And Nintendo's gonna have games consistently, so I don't think it makes a difference. Even if they didn't have Pokemon, I think Nintendo still would be fine. But they do have Pokemon, so they're gonna be extra fine. And so yeah, I'm not worried. But let's check in with a poll here, and then we'll get into our final topic. So, about 54 minutes ago, I put up this poll. When is Switch 2 coming out? And I'm gonna end it now. You gotta have an opportunity. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds. Although I know the stream, there's a little bit of a stream delay, so you have like
so it will
2
be
seconds.
ended by the time you hear this.
Yeah, but because I'm having the conversation. All right, I'm gonna do the countdown now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm ending the poll.
I want to point out that was not a countdown.
Whatever,
That was a
man.
count up.
Count up, down, left, right, backwards.
Much less satisfying.
It's fine. I'm sorry. All right. So when is Switch 2 coming out? Of the votes that came in, the 12% said 2025 or beyond. 18% said mid 2024. 29% said late 2024, and 40% said early 2024. I want to believe early 2024 because
40% said early 2024. That surprises me.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just that's what we want. Or
I'm in
maybe,
the late 2024 camp, to be fair.
Yeah. I think I'm in the early 2024 camp.
I think early too.
Really? I would.
Just being optimistic.
That's
fair.
I got the brimming optimism. I just believe. Maybe my dreams will be crushed, but it'll be fine. That's okay. You can be jaded.
No happiness left in my soul.
But because you'll be wrong, you won't be able to play Switch till 2025.
No, see, the thing is, I won't be disappointed if it doesn't happen, and if it does happen, then I'll be over the moon. Classic,
right?
Logic everybody uses for everything in your life. Just don't expect anything, guys.
Yeah, but I'm gonna just say that when you do expect something at a certain time, even if it doesn't seem like realistic, when you are right, it feels
Bro,
really sweet.
that's
It's
big.
really nice when the
Sometimes you
predictions
gotta
do
go
come
for it.
true. It's really nice, you know, because the thing is, like, especially if you do like a prediction, right, and you have these conversations and debates, there's stakes if you're wrong, right? Like just bragging rights, really, nothing serious, but you don't
Yeah.
want to be wrong, right? But you're worried about it. It's like, oh, is it gonna happen? If it's gonna, and when it happens, it's like a double effect. Like, oh, snap, it's happening. That's amazing. But also, yes, I was right. You know. So I don't know.
Right.
Sometimes it's kind of fun, like just hoping for the best. But we'll see. Whenever it happens, it happens. So let's get into our final topic, though, guys. If you could like the stream, that'd be very helpful. Very much appreciated. So we've been playing Tears of the Kingdom for a while. Sarah, have you had a chance? Have you beaten Tears of the Kingdom yet, or are you just like played some?
I have not. So I'm also in the middle of a move. So I've been playing like whenever I have a chance to.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I just get super distracted. So I will be on my way to like a temple.
Yeah.
And then I will just get sidetracked by something I see. Like I'll see people finding like armor sets on Instagram. I'll be like, okay, I'm actually gonna do that. And then I go find that, or I'll get distracted with shrines or Koroks or, you know. So I think I finished the geoglyphs
Okay.
quest, and then I also got to the I finished the wind temple and I got to the water temple.
So did you complete the Tears of the Dragon quest then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you go to the spiral part?
The what?
There's when you get all the
Oh
memories.
yeah.
Okay, so
the last one. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Okay. Were you,
I
did that moment break you?
A little bit, yeah. But actually, I was talking to someone about it as I was like completing the quest, and I kind of predicted what was going to happen because I was like, you know what? I feel like I know. I feel like somewhat. I don't want to get anything away. I just kind of predicted what was going to happen, and then I was right, and I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
But it was still upsetting.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I saw it coming too, but when I saw it, it still hit me hard. Like it was still impactful, even though it happened.
Yeah, I mean they kind of spell it out if you pay attention to all the later
the foreshadowing
years.
and all that.
Yeah, you can work it out. Because I also kind of like figured out what was going on before actually seeing it, but
yeah, there are things they say.
Was still like, oh my gosh, they actually did this.
Yeah, there are things that the characters say in some of the memories, or the tears, I guess.
Yeah.
That you can kind of pick up on what might happen in the end. I think.
Yeah, they say certain things, and you're like, oh, that doesn't seem relevant at the moment, but it becomes very relevant later.
Yeah,
I agree.
But I mean, it sounds like though you've played a decent amount of the game, so I think you know.
Yeah, not as much as I'd like to have played, but yeah, I'm still enjoying it whenever I do have time.
I wish I had unlimited time because there's so much to do in the game. I mean, I beat the story, but I want to like do all the side quests. I want to do all the shrines. I want to explore every nook and cranny. I want to create like 1,000 different things. But it's just there's life to live. So
see what we need is another lockdown, because that's whenever I played a lot of my Breath of the Wild, like whenever I did like all the little side things, and so I feel like I need that for Tears of the Kingdom. I just need to be told that I need to stay inside my house, and then I have nothing else to do. So
it wouldn't
was
work
much
for me
too important, much too essential to do a lockdown. I didn't get that. They were like, no, you're very, very important. You must keep working. I was like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. But I mean, I think
just, you know.
Yeah, I think we can talk about this though, right? Like, so how would you say Tears of the Kingdom compares to Breath of the Wild?
I would say it's just kind of Breath of the Wild, but better in a lot of ways. Like a lot of the mechanics just build on what Breath of the Wild did, without like it does a lot of new things, but a lot of them are just concepts of things people were kind of doing in Breath of the Wild, like but you weren't really supposed to be able to do. But it all feels very much like concepts you could imagine in Breath of the Wild, right? It's all very much built on top, and then a lot of your basic power-ups are just kind of very much better and more creative versions of the original power-ups in a lot of ways. So I would just say it feels a lot of times just like a better Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. I find that sometimes Tears of the Kingdom, because there's so much going on in the game, like you have like your world map, like your ground level, and then you have the sky map, and then you have the depths, and like sometimes it does feel overwhelming because like I just feel like there's so much that I need to do in the game.
Yeah, it makes me kind of just ignore the sky for the most part.
I have been too, yeah, and the depths up until recently because
the depths
I was scared.
I have not. The depths are my favorite part of the game because it actually makes me like want to explore very thoroughly. Because the surface area, I kind of play it like I do more like Ubisoft-like open world games, I guess, where I just kind of go straight to point A to point B. I'm just like finding a target and just like running straight there. But like in the depths, it kind of forces you to think a lot more, and you can't really see a lot. And it's also just like brand new, so I don't know everything. So I really do like the depths. It's kind of my favorite part of the game.
Yeah,
it's growing on me.
It's scary down there.
I loved how scary it was. I was like,
I got legitimate jump scared so many times when I first went down there.
I was like, all right, this is the darkness. Literally, this is terrifying. There are giant, scary monsters here in the dark. Like, I was just
so dark.
I was like, all right, I'm gonna live here. Like, I am a spelunker. Like, I just live in the darkness. It was great.
I went down in the depths and I did not come out for like 6 or 7 hours. Like,
years later.
I just spent so much time in the depths when I first played. Like, people were all talking about things they found on the servers. Like, I haven't even literally been anywhere but Outlook Landing, and now I'm in the depths.
So, for me, I've made this point before, and it's kind of ties into the video I made yesterday, which is like, oh, this would be a good topic for this week. When I played Tears of the Kingdom, and I've gone back to Breath of the Wild, because I have played a little bit of Breath of the Wild since playing Tears of the Kingdom, and I go back and forth between the two, and something I've noticed is that there's something about how the way Breath of the Wild is done that makes the world feel bigger than Tears of the Kingdom, or rather something about the way Tears of the Kingdom is done that makes it feel smaller. And I think it ultimately comes down to the fact that we have a lot more abilities that facilitate movement. Like, you can use Ascend to get through caves and ceilings a lot quicker. You can get up higher far quickly, right? You can use Recall to, recall yourself back upwards. You can build any kind of vehicle you want whenever you want, right? Like, once you get the resources, once you understand the building mechanics, you can, you have auto build, you can just have it already saved. Like, all right, time to make my air bike that can just take me to 3,500, meters into the air, right? Or you can even use it to fly underground and go everywhere very quickly. You can create a paddle boat, you can create a motorcycle, you can create a tank. Like, you can do whatever you want. And because of this, you can just kind of plow through or stream through everywhere. And so even though the map is arguably somewhere between 2 to 3 times larger, right? Because the surface, you have the surface, but then they added this, 350 some caves. So that adds a lot more depth to the game. But then you also have the depths, which is like a second map almost, maybe a little bit smaller. And then there's the skies, right? Which has the islands, and then sure, there's not a lot of islands, but you still explore in the sky itself. So like there's a lot to explore between all of that, right? So the game is like straight up 2 to 3 times bigger than Hyrule. And so the world is larger, but I feel like it's smaller, especially when I go back to Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild feels slower paced. If you don't have a horse, most of the time you just kind of run around. Like, and I understand eventually you can summon a horse, but what if you're in the desert or you're at sea? You have to use a raft boat, or you don't always have the sand seals. So like moving around is slower, climbing around is slower. Not in a bad way necessarily. It just kind of forces you to kind of observe details a little bit more, embrace kind of like the environment a little bit more. And I'm not trying to say that Breath of the Wild is better than Tears of the Kingdom. I think they kind of do different things, and I think the timing of one versus the other, it kind of impacts your experience. But it is interesting how they feel different to me, because of all the mechanics.
I feel like it's the same way I felt like in Xenoblade Chronicles X once I unlocked the Skells. I was like, this map is not as big as I once felt it was.
Yeah.
It kind of almost ruined the game for me in a way. Like, I preferred exploring the game before I got Skells. Like, Skells completely changed the pace of the game in a way I didn't like at the time, though I might like more nowadays because I have a lot less time than I did back then. But I liked being super slow on foot in that game. So, I don't know, I mean, I did say one of my biggest issues with this game is that, like, when I'm exploring the surface, it's not really different enough for me to feel like I need to explore everything, so I just, like, straight beeline it to wherever I need to go, because I feel like I've seen everything pretty much. And it's like, anything that's different, I go, oh, that's different, and then I move on, because, like, sometimes there's cool quests, like in the Hateno Village, there's a very nice quest line there, a couple of them. But most of the time, it's just like slight changes to the design of something. So I just like look at it and I'm like, okay, cool, and I move on.
Yeah.
It's not really. I don't really feel the need. Like, I have so many other games I could be playing, so many other things I could be doing. I honestly haven't touched the game since I beat it. I probably will when I get the itch to go back and beat all the shrines. But I don't think I'm going to just like. I don't know if I'll ever 100% the game. I don't know. It depends on how long it takes for the next one to come out, I guess.
You telling me you don't want to collect all the Korok seeds?
I'm gonna say, what do you consider
that is
100% in the
not
game, though?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of different, even with Breath of the Wild, there are different definitions of 100%.
Yeah, for me
in the game.
personally, I guess just
Shrines?
I would say getting all the wells, all the shrines, all the caves, all the armor sets, upgrading all the armor sets, you know, getting, did I say shrines? I think I said shrines.
You did.
Main story, obviously, and then all side quests, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think that covers everything.
I think
It's
you
a
got,
lot,
But
though.
not Korok seeds. Screw those. Those are literally
ignore
not
them.
meant to be collected. You're only meant
I
to
ignore
collect
them a
enough
lot of
until
time.
you get all your item slots, and you're not meant to collect any more after that. That's why does anybody know what the reward is for this one, by the way? But that's why the reward in Breath of the Wild was literal crap.
I haven't spoiled myself on that part yet, so I don't know. Maybe it's platinum poop this time.
I don't plan on finding them all, so I'm okay if I get spoiled on what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
I could look it up. I bet it's poop. What takers?
But I almost certainly will eventually get all the shrines. It's just that I don't feel like
What
I've
if it's
I put over
Maracas?
100
That'd be
hours
cool.
in the game very
Oh,
quickly.
it
so
might be. It might
burned me out a little
be
bit.
something. I don't know. The Korok seed reward. Tears of the Kingdom. Is this worth spoiling?
Yeah, go for it, bro.
I want to know, yeah.
I'll give you a
Is it
hint.
good?
Well, it's just about as good as the prior reward.
Oh, okay.
Because it's exactly the same.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that's what a Google search says, so it could be wrong, but
I think that's my only other issue with Tears of the Kingdom is Breath of the Wild is a very like pure experience, because like everything you see is new because it's essentially a new game. But with Tears of the Kingdom, there's so much repurposed content that I feel like I'm having to dig through all the stuff I already found in Breath of the Wild to get to the new stuff, and then by the time I get to that, I'm like so much anticipation and build up to this that like I get to it and I'm like, okay, that was cool, but not like that
Underwhelming.
cool.
Yeah.
My mind was not blown here, but it was neat. So I feel like that did not help the game for me. I feel like if I never played Breath of the Wild, this would be like a 10 out of 10 game for me because I would have wanted to explore everything and see everything. Everything would have been brand new, and it would just have been a way better version of Breath of the Wild to me, essentially. But since Breath of the Wild exists, there's just, for me personally, there's so much stuff that drags it down, being a direct sequel in the same world. So much of the same content.
Yeah, it's tough to kind of... It's weird because, like, I don't want to say... Like, I see Tears of the Kingdom and I'm like, okay, this is objectively, it's just better in so many ways.
Right.
But
I agree.
But, you know, something I also have noticed is that... I'm not saying I feel this way, but I've noticed that there's been a lot of people online that I've seen. Like it's hard to kind of quantify this, right? Because there's always people that have different opinions regardless of what it is. But I've noticed a lot of people who are supposedly really big Zelda fans not being that high on Tears of the Kingdom. Which, you know, if you look at sales, if you look at critical acclaim, like, you know, all the like measurable metrics we have, Tears of the Kingdom is the bomb diggity. Like, it's like really good.
Right.
So, but
we should clarify. I'm like an absolute diehard Zelda fan. I've been playing Zelda since I was like 2 or 3 years old. Zelda's like my favorite thing that exists.
He has a Triforce tattooed on his face.
Actually, I do plan on getting a Triforce tattooed on my left shoulder eventually, when I can find a good tattoo artist for a good price.
If you were a true fan, it would be on your face.
Correct.
Let's be real.
Each triangle.
If I was a true fan, it would be on my the back of my left hand, or maybe
No,
right
that's going
now, because
too hard.
apparently they've switched it up. Link's no longer
It's overdone.
left-handed.
Yeah, I've never gotten a tattoo, but I've always thought like it would be really cool to have like the Hylian crest like on the back, because it's like wings. Yeah, like,
Oh, that would
like,
actually be
like
really
the
cool.
wing thing on the shoulder blades.
Be
But
so expensive and so painful.
yeah,
I was just
That'd
telling
be
someone
like
the other
an
day,
8-hour tattoo session.
probably.
I just don't.
I just told someone the other day that the Decayed Master Sword would look awesome
Oh yeah,
as a tattoo.
that would
With
be.
like, yeah.
Wait until somebody gets Link's right arm tattooed, like their whole arm looks like that.
Or Sonya's all
Yes,
her like tattoos and stuff.
her
That would be
markings
sick.
That would make a lot of sense. That would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, like just kind of going back to how they compare. I think, you know, it's one of those things. I think over time, I think that'll be their true test to kind of see how they truly compare to each other. And you know, I think it's interesting that, you know, we can kind of look at it now, and we could maybe say, oh, you know, it might have been nice if they just made a whole new game instead of going to the same world. But you know, I appreciate that we got to learn more about these characters, and I feel like more is coming. Actually, I feel like we're gonna get more. We're gonna get a DLC that kind of tells more. We'll see. But I appreciate we got to get more characters. I appreciate that we got to see this version of Link from a different perspective a little bit, and play the world in a different way. And it's interesting because, like, have you ever like had a game that you love so much, and you're like, what if they were to just put in all the effort they would put in to make a new game to just build on this one? Like, how often do they do that? They don't, but they did that this time.
Yeah.
And what it is Tears of the Kingdom. That is the answer. Like, if you do that, so we have that now. And it's great. I will also say that I do want the next Zelda to be brand new world, brand new Link.
I agree. Yeah.
And if it's still like story-wise the same Link, I'm not necessarily against that. But I want it to have like a new art style. I want a whole new place to explore. I want that discovery to be totally new.
Yeah. I want a new art style as well. It's a big one for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like Breath of the Wild's art style. I do think the art style wouldn't be as much of an issue if they had better hardware to kind of like perfect the art style. Although it does look better than Breath of the Wild in some ways. It mostly looks pretty similar. I'd say texture quality is definitely the biggest upgrade, but it still basically looks the same. And the image quality is almost worse, I feel, than Breath of the Wild. I would love to see what a Switch 2 patch actually could do for this game. For sure.
It would look neat. It would look neat.
That's definitely gonna be a big jumping back into the game for me if I don't do it before then.
Yeah.
Definitely when that patch comes out for Switch 2, I'll play through the game. Or if, you know, I still have a lot more to play. So.
Sarah, what would you know? I know you haven't beaten Tears of the Kingdom yet, so this could impact your opinion. But where would you like to see the next Zelda go? Like, would you want it to be in a new place? Would you want it to be in the future, the past, something else?
Ooh, I don't know. I love the open world Zeldas. Like, I like Breath of the Wild, I like Tears of the Kingdom, but I am like a classic Zelda fan, so I do like the linear games. And I know there was like an article recently basically saying that they're not going to be doing that anymore. Like they're looking to the future or whatever. And it could have been mistranslated, who knows. But I would at least like to see them bring back like the more traditional dungeon styles. Like I feel like they could still incorporate those and make them so that there are multiple ways to beat them, or multiple I don't know, just different ways to go about it, I guess. But as far as timeline, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I'd honestly be happy with whatever, but I would like to see like a new Link, a new Zelda, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree though with the dungeons. Like
they're a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, totally.
They're quite short.
Well, whenever the game came out, like right before the game came out, there was like this thing that said, "Oh, the dungeons are huge." I don't remember what it was, but some news outlets said,
maybe.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, the dungeons are huge," and I'm like, "Where? Where are they huge?"
Yeah,
I'm confused.
Especially the water temple, man. That is quite small.
Better than the divine beasts, but like.
Oh yeah, wait.
I would still want to call them like dungeons. I don't know.
I mean, if you count the lead up, they're pretty big.
Yeah.
I would say the fire temple feels the most like an actual dungeon. It's going like force. It's pretty linear, unless
I
you
think
like.
A lot of people have said that one's their favorite.
Yeah, it's great.
I like
but
the
it
desert.
Kind of forces you to be linear unless you're really creative with like breaking everything and moving around.
I actually think all of them are good except for the water one. Like it's not even
the water one's great. It's just so short. I'm like, why did they not capitalize on this concept? It's so good. You got the anti-gravity.
Is this? It is good. I agree. It is good, but it does leave more to be desired, right?
I feel like the lead up was very fun too. At least I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think the best lead up was the Wind Temple though. That one was.
I loved that one. Yeah. That was so fun.
That was
Fire Temple had a good lead up for a little bit. And I mean I like the I don't want to spoil it too much, but I like the lead up as well after the initial kind of cool fight that happens. But the fight that happens is also like really short. Like they could have made that way cooler. It looked cool, but then this is over so quick.
They basically kind of give you, if you count the lead up as part of the dungeon, there is sort of like a mid boss fight, right? I think they just went at it from a different angle. You know, like they weren't trying to make the dungeons from the past. They were just trying to do something different. But I think what's interesting though is that you kind of look at like prior Zelda games, like look at Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess. Those Zelda games, they were doing a lot with the dungeons. Like the dungeons were the showcase of the game, right? Like that's where all their efforts are really going into. And it would be interesting to see a Zelda game that still is pulling off amazing things in the open world. And I think they've really accomplished a lot with Tears of the Kingdom. So continue to push that. But I want to see dungeons that really blow our minds too. Like the dungeons are cool, and they moved in such a great direction. I think bringing back the more unique themes and boss fights, the lead ups, that was all fantastic. But yeah, I think I'm not even, I guess the interesting thing about maybe bringing back the linear style dungeons is that doing this wouldn't necessarily mean like doing something old, because a lot of the dungeons were a new idea, right? Like a lot of the dungeons were really unique. It's just bringing in these really cool, whatever it is. Like for example, like the Ice Manor in Twilight Princess. Like at first you don't even think that's a dungeon. Like I'm all for that, right? But it's kind of like you realize it's a dungeon afterwards. Like, oh, that was pretty damn cool, Or like the boat in Skyward Sword. Like I'm okay with them definitely like playing around with their expectations. And you could argue that's what they do with Tears of the Kingdom, but the whole terminal thing, I don't hate it, and I think it was better in Tears of the Kingdom than Breath of the Wild, but I do think there is absolutely room for improvement. I don't want it to be formulaic. I think maybe it's kind of interesting, right? Because we're talking about we want linear dungeons to come back, but what's funny about that is that if you think about it, the dungeons of Tears of the Kingdom, they're not linear, but they're kind of predictable because you know what they are. It's like, okay, there's gonna be 4 or 5 points I have to find. I'll mess around a little bit. I'll find them. I want it to really make us think. I want there to be like a very unique puzzle that we just don't understand, that we have to break down and figure out. And that's what the prior Zelda dungeons were about.
In some ways, the Divine Beast almost did feel a bit more like dungeons in the sense that they had puzzles that were not just located to one room necessarily. Like they had an overall puzzle, like
the gyroscope
thing.
Yeah.
But it was still more like, oh, you can move the dungeon around usually, but the puzzles are still just kind of like not really connected necessarily. Like the goal that you're accomplishing might be connected, but like the puzzles are very disconnected.
Yeah.
And we got great themes and stuff, and a little more linearity in some of the dungeons, but a lot of times the puzzles have nothing to do with each other. They're just puzzles in a room that has nothing to do with any of the other rooms.
I would say the lightning.
Like the puzzle's more about getting to the puzzles almost.
The lightning temple, I would say, is probably the best one in terms of what you're talking about. I think there is more of a cohesion with that dungeon.
I do love the lightning temple, but also, my God, was it short too?
I don't think it was short. I actually thought it was fine, but I mean, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was like huge.
I feel like the lengths would be fine if we got, like 8 or 9 of these. Like if there were more than just the 4.
Right, but there's also 150 shrines. And some of those shrines are kind of crazy. Like some of those shrines are almost like dungeons. It just they're different. I always want more. I feel like every Zelda game is like, this is great, but I want more. Like Tears of the Kingdom, like did a lot. Like, but we want more.
Majora's Mask, I used to consider like to have very, very few dungeons, which in that game had 4, and now Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom both have 4, and I'm like, why is this the new standard? And I don't want this to be the new standard.
I think that's just for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I bet the next one will be different. But it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, though, because before Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the dungeons were the focus. Hence why we were getting 8 or 9, because they're like, hey, we got like these huge things. This is the new gameplay for the Zelda games.
And these are like more encouraging you to explore and do more like on that end. So that, I mean, it does make sense, but
I mean,
I think for us OG Zelda fans, we're missing the dungeons though still.
Basically, we want the crazy world to explore, which we get with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but we also want crazy dungeons that take a long time to figure out, and there's a crazy puzzle, and there's a huge story.
I think they can do a lot more with the exploration, though. By the way, I think just having more unique stuff in a lot of the environments, especially enemies, would be super helpful. I think one of the biggest disappointments for Tears of the Kingdom for me was when I heard that there was like pirates invading Lorelyn Village, and I was like, ooh, I want to see some pirate enemy models. This is gonna be dope. I wonder what they look like. And I went down there, and it was normal enemies on a pirate ship, and I was like, dang it, Nintendo! This feels like Paper Mario right now. What are you doing?
Who gave these bokoblins a ship? Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been fun though if they at least had like pirate hats. That would have been fun.
Dude, right. That would have been epic. Dress them up as pirates.
And
Why
stuff,
not?
Yeah.
Like
give me those little.
They do that in Paper Mario. They give them like little hats and stuff to like.
Yeah, Paper Mario's gone better recently. I'm more talking about like the. Man, it's so bad I forgot the name. Sticker Star days.
Man, that kind of gave me just a little bit of a brain blast though. Like, what if the next Zelda game, they do have maybe there's a slightly more enemy variety in terms of like species and classes, but it's more about they kind of start to showcase enemies have like their own personalities. So it becomes a situation where there's no 2 bokoblins that are the same. Where there's a bokoblin that just has a weird quirk where he likes to wear yellow pants. He's a yellow pants bokoblin. Like that would be fun. Well, there's a bokoblin that likes to play a horn. Like there's a little bit of personality to them. Like that would be probably a lot of work, but it would make the world feel more real, you know, because like there would be all these different types of characters.
I feel like we need more unique characters in the game. So a lot of the NPCs that generate or populate the game are very, very basic. I mean, they're literally made with like a version of the Mii Maker, essentially. So they're very generic, I feel, and I feel like they have this. It's not really a regression as in terms of like the amount of crazy wacky characters compared to the old games. It's just when you have a world that's that big, and you have all this, you know, content that's spread out. I feel like they need to add like a ton more. I mean, if you're gonna focus on having a big, huge world, I feel like you need to have a reason to have it that big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let me check in with the super chats here, and then we'll finish things up. So, guys, if there's any sort of questions or topics you want me to get to, just at me in the chat, and I'll get to that before we finish up here. All right. So, Tigger610 with a couple super chats. Thank you for those super chats, buddy. Here, Tigger says, going through Death Mountain Chasm was incredible. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Going down there. I'll I don't want to spoil things for everyone, but like there are different parts of the depths to look. There is variety. Like if you only explore like maybe Central Hyrule or even Southern Hyrule, you might think that the depths look kind of about the same. If you continue exploring, you will find more out there. There is more to it than what you see at first. This other super chat from Taker. How do you guys feel about next-gen exclusive DLC, seeing as we're 2 months plus and a general direct from launch and no DLC announced? For Tears of the Kingdom, right? So
I don't think that would go over very well.
No, I don't see them doing that.
I mean, they even put the DLC on the Wii U version of Breath of the Wild, right? That got DLC, didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
So,
It just wouldn't make any sense, yeah.
The DLC was announced before release. It is a little different.
Yeah, but I mean, how many Switches do you think are gonna be sold when this DLC drops? It's probably gonna drop pretty close to release, I would assume. If it doesn't drop before.
I don't know if you're looking at my face, Brandon, but if you can see my face, I think I just kind of want to start an argument just because.
I feel like there's no good reason to not have it on Switch. I feel like it would just be shooting themselves in the foot, like just throwing money in the garbage for no reason. Do you have a counterpoint? I'd be curious if you have actually anything that's actually solid.
Well, what if they did like if you bought a next gen console, you got like a code or something for Tears of the Kingdom where you could get like an armor piece or like something for your wing glider that's exclusive to that, not full on like paid for DLC.
I mean, they could definitely do that. I mean,
yeah,
they got things locked to Amiibo and stuff.
Yeah,
it would be nice. It would be a nice little thing. It wouldn't. I mean, they did that for Switch. There was a Switch shirt.
Oh yeah,
you get the Switch shirt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right. So
you got special pre-order bonuses only on Switch. Yeah.
There is precedent for that. So I bet if the DLC comes out around the time of the relevance of Switch 2, then
Switch 2 shirt, let's go.
Baby, a Switch 2 shirt. Or better yet, what if they... I mean, it's not going to be something that I think is going to make people like, oh, there's a Switch 2 shirt, time to spend $500 on, like this. I don't
Man, I hope the Switch 2 is at $500.
I just meant, like, if you account for the DLC, like peripheral system, like...
Yeah, you get the $70 game, you get the DLC, it's a $400 console, probably.
And you account for taxes, like, it can get close. If you buy a second controller, there's all sorts of little things that can up the price there, but yeah,
you end up paying $700.
I am trying to think of a way where they would make it exclusive. I mean, and the truth is, I agree. I think that it's unlikely that they would make Tears of the Kingdom DLC exclusive. But
it would have to be some kind of concept they're doing that they couldn't do on the original Switch, like something that the Switch 2 enables them to do now.
Yeah, it's called the next Zelda game.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that the DLC is pretty likely to be on just like that. I just no way.
If you want to compare it to something that's not really comparable, Horizon Forbidden West got a next-gen exclusive DLC.
They did.
Yeah.
I don't know about
So
the
you want to compare apples to oranges? There you go.
So, but that's Sony, not Nintendo, right? But
Exactly.
like to that end, though, like they're gonna need some type of exclusive content at some point or another to draw in more of an audience. They are going to need to do that. The question is how and when. And like there's too many question marks on how Nintendo's gonna market Switch when it's coming out to really like know for certain what they're gonna do. So, I think at least when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom DLC, most of that DLC will probably be exclusive to not exclusive. It'll come up on Switch for sure, but depending on how long it takes for the DLC to come, maybe there could be like a third wave, right? Like like an extra bonus wave that's only on Switch 2 that comes out 2 years from now or something. Like maybe that, but otherwise, I think Switch owners are pretty safe there. So, let's see here. I got another super chat from Samuel, actually. Thank you for that super chat, Samuel. Samuel says, one more. Prime 4 for Switch 2 launched in March. I know you entertained this theory in a video, but I really think it may happen. Yeah. I want it to happen. I think, I do think it's possible, right? I think there are some people who have been kind of indicating that an announcement may happen this year. If an announcement happens this year, it's because I believe it's coming out this March. And some may argue, well, why would they skip the holidays? And I've made the same argument. Why would they skip the holidays? I don't think it makes sense. But, you know, there's other factors. And Nintendo has shown throughout this generation they can sell whenever they want. And, you know, there is tax season. That may help. So...
Depending on if you're getting a tax return or if you're paying.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance. You know, we don't really know. I'll tell you that there was that leak with the Pokemon DLC that indicated that a graphics patch would be coming out for Scarlet and Violet alongside Wave 2, which comes out in this winter. This winter looks like maybe March because for first wave, which is this fall, is coming out this November. So how long do they take out to come with the second wave? Maybe 3 to 4 months later. It does kind of put them in that range where maybe there could be a graphics patch for Switch 2. Like that rumor may be true, and maybe it comes out this March. Like that's possible.
I feel like if you launch with Prime 4, it's because they're doing like a good amount of cross-gen in the first year of Switch, and that's a great game. Actually, probably one of the best games that they could release to show off cross-gen. You have a good, because we've seen Metroid Prime Remastered. We've seen that engine can run really well on Switch.
Yeah.
But it could always look better. And Retro Studios is one of the best studios Nintendo's ever had at pushing hardware. And so Metroid Prime 4 cross-gen release, you know, day one to hype the system up for, you know, a good year of cross-gen before they start doing releases. I could see that. But I could also see maybe they don't want to do a bunch of cross-gen. Maybe they're like, you know what? We've actually prepared a lot. We've been ordering parts ahead of time. We're going to have stock at launch. We're going to sell units. We don't need to do much cross-gen. Then they come out with an exclusive 3D Mario, you know, holiday that year. And, you know, that's that. And maybe they do a couple of cross-gen that make sense, like maybe Metroid Prime 4, depending on when that releases.
F-Zero.
But not really much beyond that.
I see the argument of maybe trying to build up the install base over the course of the year, so by the time the holidays come around, if they want to have, say, maybe, like you said, an exclusive 3D Mario game, there'll be enough people who have a Switch too that it'll be warranted. Because if you just come out with, like, say, 5 million at first, like, that, you know, I kind of see how they may want to do something like that. But, you know, I also think that we should take into consideration that they would have to announce the Switch 2 probably before the holidays if it's coming out in March, because I don't think you announce it in January, because that's right after people spent money on stuff for the holidays. I don't think you can do
but
that.
you can
So
announce things in January.
and then February is too late for a March release. Like, I just don't see that. But
the thing about January is you have all the people who just spent money, but then you have all the people who just got a bunch of money and are wanting to spend it. So it's kind of a,
can you think?
What do you want
tell
here?
me how many systems have been announced in January?
Probably none. Actually,
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
don't know.
I feel
don't-
like
I
a
can't think
3DS
of
model
any.
might have. No, I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't think of any. But
Uh,
Nintendo's also weird. Can you tell me any other console than the Switch that released in like 5 months after it was announced? It's like 6 months, I think.
Well, I think that Sega Saturn, just like
That is the only other one.
maybe.
You want to? Well, okay. Tell me one that was actually, not a complete and utter failure.
Well, Sega Saturn sold like 10 million systems, so. Of
Yeah.
course.
So
That's
that's worse than Wii U, bro.
well, in the 90s, inflation. Like,
No, it was a dumpster fire back then too.
apparently,
It
the
did not.
estimates are 9.26 million or something. Yeah. That's a little bit less than 13, but I would say selling 9.26 million in the early 90s is more impressive than selling 13 in the 2012 to 17
Either way,
time period.
I don't think they're gonna announce it in January anyways. So
No, we're
guess not really
we're
too much
arguing just
point
to
in arguing
argue.
that.
We neither
Yeah.
none of us here think it's happening. We just don't believe that. So
yeah, could get announced in September. I think that's kind of the latest.
Yeah.
I'd want to announce it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I guess technically Switch was announced in October, so
Oh yeah, they can announce it in October.
technically, but also Mario Bros. Wonder comes out in October. They really want to I think it's important to note that there are no major games coming in September from Nintendo. It is a weird window where we have no official Nintendo published titles in August or September coming out. They rarely have 2 months back to back. But I can't think of any time where they've had 2 back-to-back months during the Switch era where there wasn't a published title coming out. So it is a weird window. Maybe that's when it's announced. We will see.
There's also not a lot of. There's pretty much no titles coming out after Pikmin 4 that are like really pushing the Switch in ways that you could see like, Switch 2 version makes sense for this game. Not that Pikmin 4 looks bad on Switch, it's just obviously at 4K, maybe running at 60 FPS, it could look a lot better. But like Mario Bros. Wonder, you put that at 4K, it's gonna look a little bit better, but not really. So, there's not really a lot of games where people are gonna be like, oh man, I'm not gonna purchase this now. I'm gonna wait to buy the Switch 2 version of this game. No, they're just gonna get the game on the Switch. It's gonna look practically perfect.
Yeah.
So there's no real games that they're gonna be ruining the sales of if they announce a new console.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that's the kind of lineup we're looking at here. But I feel like we've kind of beat the hell out of this topic. So I'm gonna move on. Cloud9 added me. Why don't we see you on Nate's podcast anymore? Will you return? So the reason you haven't seen me on Nate's podcast recently is because him and I got into a big fight with Fish, and we were smacking each other, and then he fell off the bridge and I won, but then I slipped and I looked like a fool, so I've been too ashamed to return. No. I just have had things going on. That's literally it. There's no. I'll probably be back this week. So, yeah, that's all. Just life has been doing stuff. I had to take my cat to the vet, and she had too much Xanax in her system, so she was running around like she was a drunk cat. I brought her back home, and she grabbed her cat toy and started running around in circles under the bed like a dog, which is not normal for a cat to do. And then when she would get on the bed, she would fall flat to the floor face first. Like, that's how drugged up she was. So I had to stay by her side.
Feels bad to laugh
for
at that.
like 18 hours straight. I put pillows on the sides of the beds on every side, because she would fall. I didn't want her to get hurt, and I basically had to stay with her the entire time because she was a danger to herself. So I could not. And then because of that, I also wasn't working, so I had work being pushed up. So that I just didn't have time. That's really it. I just have stuff going on, moving, projects, life, vet visits. That's all. Let's see here. I think I don't see anything. I'm like ignoring Switch 2 stuff. I'm not ignoring it, but it's just...
There's not really much more we can say on Switch 2
Right.
until we get more actual information, guys. Or something that seems like an actually really credible leak.
Yeah. I mean, if there's new stuff, we'll talk about it, but... I will point out that... there is a lot of events Nintendo is taking a part of in this August-September window, even though they have no published titles coming out during this window. You have Gamescom, you have PAX, you have Nintendo Live. And I think, what was it, Tokyo Game Show? There was articles coming out that they had a special spot for that, but apparently they've done that every year and they're just talking about it now for whatever reason. Maybe Nintendo is making an announcement and they'll have a model for people to see on display at these events or something. But I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're pretty much at the end here. Sarah, is there anything you want to talk about before we call it a night?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like we talked about pretty much everything I was anticipating, so yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. Brandon?
I appreciate you guys having me on, though.
Of course. Of course. You got anything, Brandon?
I just have a little clarifying note that I would like to say.
Tangent. Here we go.
Yep, I'm about to go off.
Here we go.
No, I'd just like to point out that a lot of times, and I'm not sure how this goes across, but I feel like sometimes people take what I'm saying as what I think is going to happen. A lot of things I say on this podcast are literally just
hypotheticals.
My thoughts, my personal wants. Especially when I talk about the next Zelda game, or what I want from Nintendo. A lot of times I'm coming from just the perspective of what I personally want at that moment. My thoughts. If I don't like something personally, even if I think it's going to do really well for Nintendo, I'll say I don't like it. I'll be like, I don't like that. I think it's a good business decision, but I think it's dumb. Or that's not personally what I want. Or, things like Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know where you're going with it.
Well, you wish that...
Oh, yeah. I wanted to be able to play, yeah. That was just a personal thing. I realize it has, a lot of times I just want people to not think that I'm over here, saying Nintendo should do everything that I'm saying. My perspective is I just come into the podcast and I say what I want from Nintendo, and usually I'll tell you if I'm giving a prediction or saying something I think will happen. But most of the time, if I say something, it's just what I want, not what I actually think might happen. It's just kind of this is my best case scenario. So I just want to clarify that just in case, because I've said some pretty crazy things, I feel in the last couple of weeks, and I don't want people to think that I'm thinking Nintendo's going to do all this stuff. I'm just saying what I want.
I'm going to tell you what I want. I want
so not predictions all the time, unless I clarify.
We're going to space.
Yeah, to the moon!
The vertical limit's 3,500 in Tears of the Kingdom, so it becomes 7,000. You'll see. That's what I want. Yeah, I see here Samuel A. I was saying, what I was trying to say before, Pokemon is maybe lengthening the release cycle for maybe 5 years. I wish. It's kind of strange that I would say I want a game to take longer to come out than the case of Pokemon. I think that makes sense because, I'm not even that excited for Scarlet and Violet. I think I enjoy the game, but I'm not that hyped for the DLC. I'm probably gonna buy it, but I don't know. They just haven't done a great job of stirring up my excitement recently. But if they announce a Legends game, that would do it. So, but that is all for now. Guys, you can check out Sarah everything about her is linked in the description below. Is there anything you would like to kind of point out in particular, Sarah, before we close out? Like anything you're working on or want people to see?
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty active over on Instagram, probably more so than YouTube, especially with like the move and everything. I have not even touched anything on there recently, but I do have plans for YouTube coming up. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm kind of excited. I actually have like a plan, which I didn't before. So
cool.
Yeah, but in the meantime, I'm very active on Instagram, sometimes Twitter, but now Threads too, because you know it's new and exciting.
Oh yeah, I saw everyone was doing it. I'm.
Oh, it's fun.
I'm probably.
It's better than Twitter. I swear.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So might have to twist my arm to do it, but
just it takes 2 seconds to set up, and you just set it up with your Instagram.
Okay, maybe I'll do it. Oh, that's
it's
because
fun.
it's a Facebook thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it.
Oh, is it? I don't even have Facebook though, so.
Meta thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's all the giant umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all Mark's stuff.
Yay, the Zuck.
Cool. You know what I've wanted to do? I want to do like a collaboration where I actually just play a game with somebody. Like every time there's like a multiplayer game, we're like, oh, we should do this, and it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. I mean, Let's Plays are hard these days too, but that's a whole other thing. But I mean, streaming sometimes fun.
Yeah, we could stream.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got this super chat from King Frost. I'm gonna check this one out. So, loving Nintendo right now. Pikmin 4 hype, Harvest Moon remakes, future Pokemon Legends, game next year, Mario RPG coming soon, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, amazing year. Yeah, I think it's been a really good year. You know, for me, Fire Emblem Engage was a solid start, Prime Remastered, and then we had the Future Redeemed for Xenoblade, Advance Wars, Tears of the Kingdom, now Pikmin 1, 2, and 4 for this summer, and then we got Mario RPG and Mario Bros. Wonder in the holidays. So I think it's a good lineup for me too.
Pretty good.
And next year's a whole other boatload of opportunity. But yeah, that is all for now, everyone. If you could like the stream, that'd be super appreciated. Please make sure to check out Sarah. Her sites are linked in the description below. Make sure to make fun of Brandon in the comments. And
yes,
we will.
I can take it.
Don't actually do that. Make fun of me.
Hit me.
That's pretty much it. But we'll see y'all soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Cool.